Thank you.
All right, well, welcome everybody, and just want to thank you for your patience on this Tuesday night. My name is Lelaine Perez, and I'm the Executive Director of Language Development, and I do oversee our parent engagement workshops that we offer through our DAC-DLAC. And we're very excited tonight because we are continuing with our partnership with the Western Educational Equity Assistance Center. And we have with us, and it is my pleasure to introduce Principal Analyst Fran Miller from WEAC. And I'm going to go ahead and introduce her right now. And then we have two special guests. You've seen them before if you've been participating in our workshops. And we look forward to a great evening with them tonight. So Fran, go ahead and take it away and tell us a little bit about WEAC.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Perez. Patty, would you bring up that first slide for WEAC, please? There we are. Okay, now let me quickly introduce myself. I'm Frances Miller. I'm a Principal Analyst for the Western Educational Equity Assistance Center, better known as WEAC. And our purpose is for training purposes to K-12 school districts. And when we do training for the different school districts, it's at their request. So I have to thank Dr. Perez for reaching out to us and saying, we'd like your assistance in regards to our parent involvement, parent engagement leadership series. So this is the fourth one that we've conducted with Chula Vista Elementary School District, and we're really proud and pleased to be a part of your presentation. Regarding WEAC, WEAC covers service to areas of K-12 education in 13 Western states, as you can see here on the map. And we cover topics dealing with sex, national origin, gender, religion, and race, of course. And of course, as I said before, our services are free at no cost to the school district. All we need is for school districts to just contact us and ask us for assistance. And most of the time, we're able to do that. And as a result of WEAC being in existence, we've had the pleasure of meeting Gina Preston and B. Fernandez. They have been excellent consultants for us, and they'll be giving you another presentation tonight. And I'd like to thank them up front because they're very talented individuals. They're very knowledgeable on the topic of parent engagement. And of course, WEAC prides itself on being able to give you a top-notch presentation. So thank you again to B. Fernandez and to Gina Preston. It's been a pleasure working with you one more time, and I look forward to working with you again. At this time, I'd like to introduce B. Fernandez and Gina Preston, our parent engagement specialists for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Frances. This is Gina, and I'm going to start. So next slide, please, Patty. I like this quote. It's parenting is our second chance to have a great parent-child relationship. If you look back on your own childhood and it wasn't perfect, just please know you have a chance to choose to do things differently with your own child. Next. So here's our agenda for tonight, and I'm just going to briefly mention to you how it's organized. The first thing I want to mention is way over on the right-hand side by that kind of lime green box. You'll see page 1. Anytime on any of the slides that you see an actual page number in that corner, it means that page is going to appear in your packet. And we have put together a packet. So when we go through the items tonight, you don't have to try to remember everything. So you can just focus on the conversation. And know that you can download that page. So if you look at the actual agenda, we have divided it into 3 sections. And we call those sections the 3 M's because each section's name starts with an M. So the 3 M's are motivate, mobilize, and mentor. And we think these are 3 good strategies if you're looking at engaging more families with the school and just raising the profile of parent involvement or engagement, you know, in some really good ways, substantial ways. So we're going to go through these kind of briefly, and please know, as I said, that you have the packet that you'll have access to. And just another note is when B and I are talking and we use the word parent, of course, we mean family members, we mean caregivers. That's just sort of a shortcut instead of listing everybody every time we speak. So we mean that word parent to be inclusive. So next, please. Just a really brief word on some research that was done this year that we wanted to share with you. Because when we talk about increasing family involvement with schools, we need to look at this, and we can give a slight thank you to the pandemic, perhaps, because when these people who did the research asked parents, you can see on here 93% of parents said they're going to be just as involved as last year or maybe more involved. And we saw an increase in family engagement, probably due to learning at home and all of that, many factors, but we saw an increase. So that's great, good news. If you look at the other points, I'll let you kind of look at those. This is good news too. They asked parents what their main concerns were, and interestingly, the concerns of parents lined up really well with the concerns of teachers and principals. So it's nice to know you're not surprised that safety and security is number one. That's just always on our minds, but making progress, our kids making progress, and then mental and emotional health is there. So next, please. Motivate is our first M, and this again is going to be in your packet, but B and I put together 8 really good ideas. You may recognize 1 or 2, maybe you're already doing them, but on the other hand, I want to encourage you when you look at these ideas to not imagine that you would choose 6 of them, for example. You would go through and see what sounds interesting that maybe you might want to suggest to your principal, to teachers, to parent groups, other volunteers. You might want to take forward as an idea for this coming year. So I'm just going to highlight a couple of them. We have 2 slides of them. So on this slide, the very first one I think is a great one because you can get your feet wet. It doesn't take too much preparation, and there's just truckloads of information on the website that we've given you here for how can you think about it, how can you put it together. And it's celebrating National Family Involvement Day. This is celebrated nationally once a year. It's in November. And the great thing about having it in November is nothing's gone terribly wrong yet in the school year, right? I mean, the kids are getting started. You know, you've had some of your school year, but we hope everybody still has good relationships at this point. This whole day is set up to say thank you to parents and community for supporting the education of children. So it can be as simple as maybe providing coffee to families when they drop their kids in the morning and saying thank you and having a big thank you banner. Or some schools go all out. They invite parents to come in and observe in the classrooms, and some of them even have lunches and invite parents. So it can be as small or as big an event as you would like to have. So I would really encourage you to consider getting started celebrating it.
darles café a las familias cuando van a dejar a sus hijos en la mañana y decirles gracias, o tener un banner que diga muchísimas gracias.
Translation. I'm
O
sorry.
algunos invitan a los padres a ver.
The second one on here, I also want to mention just because I think it's so important, and that's study skills workshops. If you want to consider doing kind of a workshop training event for the parents at your school, this is one that is of huge interest. And the really great thing is you may already have a principal or teachers or people at district level who know this area, because with our kids, often it's not that our kids aren't bright enough to do well in school. It's like often they're disorganized. So anyway.
You're trying to fix the problem. I don't know why you are listening also to my interpretation. I'm so sorry. We're trying to fix it here too.
You know, we're all in coping mode tonight, so we're happy to be doing this. So we'll figure that out, I'm sure. Anyway, as you look down these, you'll see planning a family bookmaking activity, tons of information on that on websites. Having some of these you may already be doing, donuts with dads, muffins with moms, grandparents' day. These are wonderful occasions. Could we do the next slide, please? You notice number 5 is organizing a resource force. This is a group of staff members and interested parents who want to look in the community and see where's the support for the school in the community, because you often have nonprofits, businesses that might support, for instance, if you have, you need support to do, say, your study skills workshop, you have maybe a presenter's fee, you need refreshments. This is a group that would come together and figure out how do we support ourselves to do some really good things with families. So this is a group that you can also consider putting together. And of course, room parents, there's going to be a handout. You're getting your resource packet. Number 7, Watch Us Work Wednesdays. This happens maybe twice a year. Parents are invited in. It's a great occasion when schools do that. You might consider that. And the last one, virtual family movie night. Some people don't know if you want to show a movie on campus, maybe outside if the weather's warm, you need to pay a license fee. And PTAs or parent organizations usually know all about that, but it's just a little information. Families love this. I have twin grandchildren, 6 years old, and their preschool actually has been doing this. So they love it, and the families love getting together. They might even wear their pajamas to it, who knows? But anyway, those are some 8 ideas, because we know if we're going to increase family engagement, we have to do things that families feel are worthwhile, or they generally won't participate. And so these are some ideas for you to think about. And B is going to talk with us about the next M, which is mobilize, because you not only have to have interesting ideas, you have to have ways to invite parents.
Thank you, Gina. And hi, everyone, and welcome back to our series of trainings and workshops for parents. So the second M is mobilize, and it's about making contacts with families easier using a combination of technology and welcoming school strategies. We know the last couple of years that parents have really done a great job in learning how to use technology in different ways and in partnership with the school. So now we have family engagement in a virtual world, whether it's in person or it's online. It is changing, and it's kind of here to stay. But I do hope reading a book to your child has not changed, like this cartoon here says, get into bed and I'll text you a story. I hope that's not what we find in the future. Next, Patty. Thank you. So I really tried to do a lot of research in this section to see what schools and districts were doing across the country as we move from online to in-person meetings. And what I did find out is that things are changing. So let's talk about some of the benefits that we did have when we had virtual parent meetings or with teachers or at school sites or district level. One thing we know is that, and Gina mentioned it earlier, is that we have many more parents participating than ever before. And the research says 20% to 80% participation. That's a lot of growth of parents wanting to have more information with the school and have stronger connection, because that was missing with everyone at home. Also, one thing we learned is that we got to meet a lot of different parents, new faces that we didn't know before. That was a positive. Another one was that working parents with scheduling challenges were able to sign in and participate. There are some parents whose jobs, and I know this because my cousin worked at Mercy Hospital, they can only use their phones obviously, and their personal emails during their 50-minute break and their lunchtime, and that's it. So some parents really were able now to get online and participate in our virtual meetings. And another case is that many districts that had a lot of different languages, like San Diego Unified, were able to have many interpreters at the same time interpreting a session. So that made it easier for families that speak languages other than English to be able to participate. Now, excuse me. So let's look at what's happening now. We're moving across to in-person meetings and hybrid parent meetings. And that's evident because today, Chula Vista District had a fantastic DAC and DLAC meeting. I hear that everyone present loved being together. They were welcoming each other, participating at high levels. And that's because we were ready to see some people and have that connection. But let's look at hybrid meetings as well. You know, because there are some parents who are still very careful about going out for a variety of reasons. So they may prefer a hybrid meeting where they can sign in and participate and meet other parents. So look at the graphic that I posted, because some people may not be sure what we mean by hybrid. A hybrid parent is when you have the presenter, you have parents or participants in person in the room, and at the same time you have usually a very large smart TV where participants can then come in through either Zoom or Microsoft Teams, whatever application a district uses. The important thing, though, is that you have to have a very good microphone so that everyone can hear clearly. You have to make sure you have cameras that are designed for hybrid meetings, and obviously a smart TV as well. And I say that because my kindergarten teacher, my sister's a kindergarten teacher, invited me to look at her classroom, and they had gotten this huge smart TV because they're also moving to still working on some online activities with parents. So again, this is why we're moving across from in-person to hybrid meetings as well. And one of the research articles that I read said that in the future, 81% of all meetings will be either in-person or hybrid. This is not just about parent meetings. We're talking about meetings in general, whether it's a business, it's a school, it's a university. We are moving towards this whole idea of in-person hybrid. But remember, it will require special equipment and training for the presenter. Okay, and at the bottom, you'll see the source where I got this information. Can we go to the next slide, please? And in mobilizing, we talked about also having some welcoming school strategies, because that's not going to change. In previous trainings, we talked about parents that are engaged at their school, feel welcome at the school, and feel that there's a role for them. So the first 2 points are establishing a welcome committee and creating a welcome packet. Those are 2 really good strategies for engaging new families, because if you set up a volunteer parent group to welcome families, it can be as simple as a phone call or a text to new parents to welcome them to the school, or to your parent group, whether you have a PTA, a PTO, or any other parent group. A welcome packet, most schools have welcome packets, but you can also create an online welcome packet. And PTO Today is a wonderful resource. The actual webpage is ptotoday.com. It's also on page 6 of your packet if you want to go there and find different ideas. And it's really a welcome packet. It's not just for new parents, but it's also to make returning parents feel welcome, especially since kids move from different grades to different grades. I got to tell you that my grandson attends Rice Elementary, and I don't pick him up. Well, obviously, when they just went back to in person, but when he was in kindergarten, I would pick him up. And there were times when I was late because I would forget minimum day, and I would call the school and I would rush over to the school. And I got to tell you, that office staff was so wonderful. And they would say, don't worry about it. We understand that these things happen. So I really have to say that our staff at schools, they're tremendous. They really work with families. The third point of recruiting is taking advantage of technology, because one of the things that we can say is that we learned from this past chaotic and uncertain time we just went through is that communication became very important between parents and schools. And we also found out that there are some applications that work better with some parents. And so that's an important thing, is to continue to look at which technology works best for families for communicating. Another strategy, because again, we were lucky today with the DAC and DLAC to get so many parents. But let's talk about what happens at a school site level as you move to having in-person meetings. And that is that let's find out what worked well. Let's ask the principals, let's ask the teachers to find out how they reach out to parents at the different grade levels. Because I know the kindergarten students the parents of kindergarten students had a different kind of communication with the classroom teacher than perhaps a 5th grader. So let's find out which works best at each grade level. Perhaps an idea is at a parent meeting, whether it's a district level or a school site, is to work with parents, put them in small groups, ask them, what is working at our school? How do we recruit more parents? Let's share the best ideas. That's another way to increase the numbers of families that are engaged as we move into in-person meetings. And the last one, of course, is let's survey parents. Let's find out from them what they like the best in terms of communicating with the district or the school. Which applications do they prefer to use? So I'm going to have an activity, a chat box activity right now, and Angelica Maldonado, the district parent engagement liaison, is going to help us with this. So parents, I want you to think of all the different ways that you use technology to communicate. Which are the ones that work best for you, that you prefer to use? And they may be different than the ones that the school uses. We know schools use the phone calls. We know that some of them use Peach Jar. We know that some of them send emails. We know some of them actually post signs outside of the school that says we're having a training. So those are different ways, but we want to hear from you. Which are the different ways that you prefer to communicate? For example, I prefer texting or a group chat. I don't check my emails that often, but sometimes for the groups that I belong to, they'll send a text that say, please check emails, need a response right away. So that's one of the ways that I prefer to communicate, as well as Facebook are the ones that I use a lot. So parents, I want you to think of at least 2 methods of communication that you like to use most often. And if you would open up your chat box, and if you would please just write to them on the chat box. You can do it now, you can do it throughout the presentation. Put the name of the school, and what Ms. Maldonado is going to do, as you write down your responses, she's going to capture all of them and share them with us at the end of the workshop. This will at least give us an idea of how this group today, what they prefer in terms of communicating. Okay, next. Gina?
Yes, so far of the 3 M's, we've covered 2 of them. And remember, the first one was motivate, and that means to increase parent involvement. You really need to make sure that the activities, what you're inviting people to come and be part of, is something worthwhile, that parents feel like it's worth putting on their shoes and going back to the school if it's an in-person event, or just taking the time to log on and be part of it like you are tonight. It has to be something that is good quality and high value. The second M, B just finished, which is mobilize, which is once you have some events identified, then how do you bump up that communication with parents so you're sure they know it's happening? So that now we're going to move to the third one, and that's mentor. And I do like this quote, because people will tell you things aren't possible, but they are. And generally the people that are doing it are not the ones that are being discouraging. They know better. Next. And when you think about mentoring others, this is a really important part of building family engagement at a school. You're already in a leadership position. Even if you're not serving in a formal position, you're part of a parent group at your school site, or this is your first time, coming on and having a discussion about it, but you're already a leader. You have already stepped up. And you can be a mentor, because what you're already doing is no doubt encouraging 2 other parents around you. And remember, another hallmark of being a good leader is you give other people credit. And if you're unfortunate enough that you have a setback as the leader, you take more of the blame. So if you're wondering if you're a leader, if those are the ways you behave in a situation, you absolutely are. Next slide, please. And what's the reason that I would encourage you to mentor? And by mentor, I'm talking about reaching out to other parents who may not be as engaged or involved as you are. And the truth is that they're waiting to be asked. Just because they're not signing up to do things, or they're, everybody's busy, and a lot of people think, well, I can't really offer to help because I just don't have the time. But when my daughter, who has the twins, her kids were in preschool, she really couldn't be at the school because she has a job and a half. And she talked to the people at the school, and they were having activities, and they actually gave her a whole bunch of things to take home and cut, because they were having kid activity centers and they needed help with that. So it was a small thing, but it made her kind of feel part of the school. And I thought it was great that they tailored that to her schedule so she could actually contribute. So you have to know that people are waiting to be asked. And one of the ways you can ask, if you're not used to asking people to help, is to start the sentence with, would it be possible? Would it be possible for you to help us you know, sit at the sign-in tables at an event and just ask people if they'd like to sign up to volunteer or be part of the parent group. Would it be possible? So that's a really nice way to start. The second thing is, another reason for you to do this is it builds your own leadership skills. You know, it allows you to take charge of something. And some of you may be in jobs where this is important, actually, and you can say, you know, as part of my personal growth, I am helping organize things at my child's school. And so it really does help you build your own skills. And the last point is sort of a sports reference. You need to develop a deep bench. And what I mean by this is, if you're familiar with sports teams like football teams and baseball teams, they don't have just one pitcher. They don't have just one person who can hit, because remember, your children are going to get older and your last one's going to leave elementary school and go on to the middle school. And you don't want to leave your elementary school without people who are ready to come on board and be the DAC rep or the SSC council chair or help with the parent group. So you have to bring them on a little at a time before you get ready to go and be active at your middle school. Next slide. And this is something, I like to break this up by putting odd pictures in our presentation. But if you look at the sentence above the ducks, I'm going to read that with you. The universe distributes talents among all, but opportunities are not necessarily distributed equally. And what that means is not everybody gets asked. Okay, again, people may not be approaching you, but excuse me, many of them will do something and will come on board if you ask them. And the duck picture, here's the explanation for that. Admiral McMullen, who was Navy, of course, and retired chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, was interviewed on 60 Minutes, which is a news show. And the interviewer asked him why it was that the elite naval pilots who fly those fancy jets were nearly all male and all white. And he said, it's simple, ducks pick ducks. And what he meant by that is we have a tendency, because we're human, to seek a comfort level. And sometimes it kind of propels us to, when we're asking people to do things, to pick people who look like us only because we're more comfortable, right? So unfortunately, when we do that and we don't pick different ducks, then we miss out, because there are people that maybe we wouldn't choose, but who would really like to be part of what happens at the school. So anyway, that's the duck explanation. I like that. So next. And here's something for you to remember as you start reaching out to people to get them engaged. This, of course, is the therapy dog after I share all of my problems. You don't want to scare people, because when people haven't been involved at the school, if you start by giving them huge jobs, or you start by giving them way too much information about what you need to have them help with, this is the look you might get, because you can overwhelm people if they're just getting started and they're not sure they have time and they don't think maybe they have much to offer. So you want to always be careful that you don't overwhelm people. Next slide, please. So there are some steps when you're reaching out to people. And again, this is all in your packet, so you don't need to remember it. We're just going to go over it briefly. you want to identify some parents that you think might have some leadership potential. And you also have to think, like my example with my daughter, if they're working full time, maybe even 2 jobs, what are the things that they could start with? And remember too, just a word of caution, you're never just striking out doing things on your own. You're always, doing these sorts of things in coordination with the parent group on campus, with your principal's knowledge, with the teacher's support. So if anything you think you want to do or put into motion requires people to be on campus during the day, you know that there are rules about volunteers and who can be on campus and signing into the office and so on. So just a little note for you to remember that. Next. So once you identify people, it's really kind of simple, but sometimes it's nice to have like a small checklist like this. You're going to be welcoming and friendly because that's how you are anyway. And you're going to explain without doing 4 hours of explanation what a task is. And so you're going to start small with people as you bring them on board so they aren't overwhelmed, as we said a minute ago. Is there something that they can do with another person? People are so much more comfortable sometimes if you say it's the 2 of you and you're going to be at this table, or you're going to make these calls for us, please. So if you can have them work with somebody, that's great. Being clear about the task and how much time it's going to take, and if there are materials, if there's anything they need, and who to contact if they're having any kind of an issue or don't quite understand. Those are important things when you're bringing people on board. Next slide, please. And the last step is just to remember that just because you give someone a task, it's like with your kids, doesn't mean they're doing it. They may have forgotten that they agreed, or they've just gotten caught up in their own lives. It's really good to check in with them. And a really good check-in question with your kids as well is, how's it going? And the person, even if they forgot they were doing, they can recover from that and say, oh, well, I was about to do this and that. But you can ask them if they need anything at that point. And the last point here, I think, is probably the most important one, and that's to thank people, even if it's a small thing, because if you thank them, they're very likely to help you again. And if you can thank them publicly, that's really absolutely the best. So right now, I'd like to thank Francis for allowing us to be together and do this work, because people like to hear their names out loud. So it's really great to do that. If it's not possible to thank people publicly who have come on and helped with an event or activity, then maybe on the school website, there's a little summary of the event, and maybe whoever keeps the website could list the people. It's great to see your name in print. So if you want to build your volunteers at your campus to help with school events, very important to thank them. Next, please. And B is going to talk to us just a little bit, because I keep mentioning a packet, and it does have some of the points like from Mentor, which we just went over in it, but it also has some resources. So B, do you want to talk to us about the resources for a minute?
Right, Gina. If we have a few more minutes before we end, because we want to respect everyone's time. On page 4 has an article called Hosting Virtual Events for Families. It offers you 3 strategies. I think you would find that interesting. And what I loved about it was that it was already translated in Spanish. So that was wonderful. It's rare that we find resources like that. We have to pay to get things translated. Another article that is in the packet is on volunteers, and Gina touched a little bit on volunteers. So page 8 and 9 are just simple things to remember, especially if you're new to organizing volunteers. You really need to have some background on that. And remember, let's think about volunteers, not just at the school site, but also what can they do at home to help us. And then on page 10, it's 25 ways to catch and keep volunteers. It's a list of things to say, but I like one of them, which was 5 things volunteers don't want to hear. And what they don't want to hear is, oh, thank you, B. We don't need those materials after all. Okay. So it's because you have no idea all the work that this parent volunteer had to do, and then, oh, no, thank you. So anyway, that's a really good article to look through. And so anyway, can we go on to the next slide, please? So this one says there are people who take the heart out of you, and there are people who put it back. So isn't this the truth? You know, you have to look for those people who are positive and uplifting, and because those people are the ones that work with lots of heart. So when you're in charge of something, when you're the leader, you need to surround yourself with people that are enthusiastic, and also, as Gina kept mentioning, and bring others along. I want to remind you that we had 3 M's today. We had motivate. We provided you a couple of strategies for you to look at, to use. There's many more, but we need to start planning right away to get parents motivated to help their children be successful in school. Second was mobilize, and that is making sure that our families feel welcome, looking at different ways that we can bring parents in and make them feel comfortable with this whole in-person way we're doing things now. And also looking at the technology we think is the best to be using and more effective, not just the best, it's going to be the most effective. And of course, mentoring. I think Gina did a beautiful job in a short time to just go over the leadership that we all have inside and how to bring it out and how to help others that can help our school be stronger and more effective. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Angelica Maldonado, who's going to share with you if any of the comments that parents shared with us. Angelica?
Thank you, Ms. B.
Next slide. Sorry, next slide.
Hello, everyone. I'm really happy that we got some feedback right away. Ms. Montellano shared that she really preferred that events were in person. And Ms. McDonald shared that when it comes to communication, she really likes Class Dojo and emails. Also, we had Ms. Gonzalez share about social media, emails, and texting. Another suggestion for texts. And she said, we had Ms. Caballero share that she would really love to try having a parent group to welcome new parents. So I think we have some really eager parents to use some of the strategies you've shared with us today, B and Gina. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we're right on time. And Lonnie?
Thank you so much for providing these strategies for us. And I really enjoyed seeing some different ideas, having a welcoming group, a welcoming packet. All of those are fantastic ideas, and we would love to hear how our parents are doing with that. So I think having this as a topic at DAC-DLAC would be also a wonderful idea to share. And so I just want to thank you for imparting your wisdom and your experience and your knowledge with us. And I just feel like we're old friends now, and we want to hear from you all the time and learn more from you. And so we really appreciate our partnership with you, and we look forward, if you want to continue your partnership with us, to continue as well. I think there's many more topics that we can engage our parent community in. And I just want to thank you and thank everybody for their patience today. And, we went from not having working links to having, 14 people online. So that means, people want to be here. They want to learn. And thank you for spending your night with us tonight. please join us next Tuesday. We will promise that we will test out those links in advance. This is the first time this happened to us. Next Tuesday, same time, same place, virtually, we have our final parent workshop on, what is the title of it? It's Math, Keep the Learning Going. It's called Keep the Learning Going, and it is math and science. In fact, I was just looking at a preview of the PowerPoint, and so I will just do a sneak peek for you if you just to kind of get you excited about it. But here is a sneak peek. So if you could see this, Math and Science Summer Learning, and this is presented to us by Allison Williams, our math coordinator for the school district, and Marlis Williamson, our science coordinator. Unfortunately, Marlis Williamson will not be able to present that evening because she is, I believe, she's an award recipient, and she is just phenomenal. And so she's getting I believe she's doing something that has to do with her award. However, her content is included in this presentation, and Allison will be presenting that next Tuesday. So please join us for that, and that's going to focus strictly on how to keep the learning going with your children during the summer in the areas of math and science. So that's going to be fun and engaging. So I hope to see you here next week for that. Other than that, I don't know if Angelica has any more announcements in regards to parent engagement. Oh, there's the flyer right there. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to share the flyer, and please join us. Mark your calendars. We've added the link, and thank you for being patient. And thank you for everyone's patience. It took a lot of everyone doing their best, and I'm just happy that we have parents with us today.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful evening. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.
Bye-bye.